This little Gretsch amp came in, not sure of the year or model yet. Just says make playable. Okay. All right, 3 inputs, a switched volume/power knob. That's all it does. It's got the cool G knob on it. Note to self, do not lose that. I removed 4 of the screws that hold this wood panel in place. Let's remove the 5th on camera. When it comes to old amps like this with old wood, or in this case I'm going to sheet metal, but still I prefer to use hand tools where practical, just so things don't get stripped from going too fast or too much torque. And the 5 screws, and if I have to pull the chassis, the 4 on the sides go in this bag. Tuck that inside the cab. It's got an old 2-conductor lamp power cable. All right, let's see what we can see. All right, I've had amps similar to this before. So here's the power cable. Looks like it might be a replacement. Yeah, there's electrical tape on the fuse and on this wire. So here we have probably a 5Y3. Yeah, 5Y3 GT rectifier. It's a Class A single-ended amp. It's going to be a 6V6. It's an old RCA for that as well. Yeah, 6V6 GTA. No sound when I shake it. No discoloration. Hasn't lost vacuum. Didn't have any getter flash. And probably a single 12AX7. So this is going to be Champ-esque, I imagine. Let's see if I can get this to come off. All right. Got an RCA in here as well. 12AX7A, old RCA. Hopefully all the tubes will be good. So we've got 3 input jacks with this shielding plate hiding that from me. And everything's on this terminal strip. It's a very simple circuit. Let me find the caps. All right, there's a multi-section can cap up here. Let me see if I can get a view of it. And it's an old Jensen 8-inch Alnico speaker. All right. Back here behind the lamp holder is a 3-section can cap, filter cap. And it's probably something like 20-10-10. I'm going to pull the chassis to confirm that, but it's probably nothing major. And honestly, a lot of times amps of this era would use as little filtering as they could get away with, because this was a budget student model amp, and a 20-10-10 cap was cheaper than a 20-20-20. So if I replace that multi-section can cap with individual capacitors, I may go 20-20-20, or 22-22-22, which is the Champ setup. Let's see what it looks like when I pull it out. All right, this bugs me. Someone spliced the speaker wires with electrical tape, even though the old wires going into the chassis go to this terminal strip right here. It would have been really easy to run new wire through here. Since this has already been bodged up, I'm going to make an executive decision and pull this here. And later, I'm going to put a rubber grommet in this hole so the new wires going to the speaker won't pass through this sharp-edged bare metal hole, because that can abrade them. So now that's disconnected. That electrical tape just falls off. Yuck. Old stickum. All right, let me take this chassis out and see what's up. All right, I pulled the speaker out. It's old 8-inch Alnico. There's a deformation in the cone right there at the edge. That paper feels about as fragile as can be. There's some odd patterns in the dust cap. Maybe moths have been in there. The speaker doesn't seem to be the same distance forward on all all around the edge. I think the spider is a little bit forward. Let's measure it and see if it's even gonna be a speaker, or whether I need to get it replaced. 5 ohms. Quick and dirty test. Well, it makes sound, though I don't think that cone's going to hold up. It's beginning to tear. These things were about the same quality as you'd find in the door of a Chevy from that period, and a new 8-inch Alnico speaker is usually like 30 to 50 bucks. Less for ceramic. I'll put that to the side. I'll talk to the owner about that. Let's look at the chassis. Well, I called it on that filter cap. It's 2010-10. So yeah, that was just chosen for cheap reasons. That's not actually the best choice for the circuit. Fender is using 16-16-16 on similar amps, and I could do 30-22-22. Almost forgot to say, judging by the transformer date codes on the power and output and the date code on this old can cap, I would say with some surety that this amp is a 65 or a 66. Those date codes all say 65. So now I will see if I can find out what model this is. And if I can, that will be the model that appears in the video title. Single-loaded amps, it's really, the more you can do to alleviate humming, the better. We look at the heater supply. See if it's going to ground it either. Yeah, they've got, I need to find the schematic for this amp if I can. They've got pin 9. I guess I'll show you. Pin 9 is tied to the cathode, pin 3. And there's a little terminal strip there that's hidden by this jacks. I'm looking at it. I don't know whether I think what they're doing there actually might be a good thing, because that cathode is not at ground. So they are referencing one side of the heaters to a small DC voltage, which is not as good as a higher one, but it's a little bit better than ground, but it's just one side of the heaters to that. It'd probably be better if I were to disconnect that and give it an artificial center tap from both sides of the heaters to ground. I'm going to look through and see what's in here first. I'm sure it's a cathode biased amp, so let's look at the output tube. All right, so let me get my bearings. All right, so here's the cathode resistor. This is the speaker wire. Let me get that away. That's pin 8. It's got a cathode going to ground. Has no capacitor across it. The amp would probably have a bit more sound if that were bypassed. I'll talk to the owner if he wants it playable, as in restored to the little student model it came out as, or if he'd like it to be a little bit better. Sometimes in this era, companies would make a choice not to put a bypass cap across an output cathode, just so that the amp would not have any wattage to compete with the next price model up, or sometimes to have a very clean sound. I'll know more as I go through this. I'm hoping, for the owner's sake, that all the components on these little terminal strips are good, because it'll be a pain in the butt to replace them if not. It'd be nice if I could just put some filter caps in, maybe even mounted straight to this tag board that's already here, and not have to reinvent any particular wheels. And hopefully everything else is okay. I would imagine with modern wall voltage, that resistor value is going to be inappropriate. So we want to have, I guess I'll show you. Sorry, I was looking at the piece, not through the lens. We're going to need to get a grounded power cable in here with the hot to fuse, fuse to switch to primary, and then the neutral going to the other primary. So that's all doable. They've got a fused neutral, which is not good. All right, so it's going through this tiny little grommet here. I'm just eyeballing it. I think I can fit I'm sure I can fit a better power cable holder than that little clamp, because this little 2-conductor won't cut it. And it should be easy to get to a chassis ground point. Since this is not a new build, I can probably use one of these output tube socket grounding points for the AC safety ground. It's not to modern code, but it will be absolutely fine. Let me get this ugly new wire out. All right. Taking a look inside here, I need to remove the 3 input jacks to see what's behind this plate. So let's do that real fast. All right, none of the 3 jacks was particularly tight, but that's easily fixed when I put it back together. There are only 2 cathodes in the preamp. There are only 2 triodes in the preamp, neither one of which is bypassed. So this thing would be very, very low gain by modern standards, even compared to the stuff Fender was putting out at the same time. One of the things I need to look at on this, since it's single-ended, a lot of times if I were to do a resistor on both the positive and negative of the DC before the reservoir cap, I can lower it a bit without doing anything too radical as far as a vintage amp goes. But I think once we get this grounded safely with a real power cable and all the chassis connections are tight in the amp, I mean, aside from the input jacks, they're all pretty much riveted. New filter caps, and have the heater supply with the artificial center tap probably to the output cathode here rather than to a triode cathode. I think we'll have a quieter amp, and we probably get away without doing any of the little single-ended tricks I know how to do. And hopefully all those old RCA tubes are still good. I can almost guarantee that speaker is not after all this time. I won't know for sure until this amp is safely capable of making music again. And I've got to call the owner after, and I'll send this video to him so he'll be on the same page. But the issue with this multi-section can cap, besides the fact that it is an odd size in terms of diameter, and besides the fact that the 10-10-20 was just the bare minimum, is, and I will send him the Princeton video from the other day where a fairly new multi-section can cap failed. Cosmetically, yeah, vintage is preferred. Realistically, sometimes it's better to leave that in there just to plug the hole in the chassis, have the old can cap disconnected from anything, and put some small individual can caps, radial or axial caps in here rather than a multi-section capacitor. So I will talk to the owner and help him or her make an informed decision on where to go with this. The good news is this amp is simple enough that this should not be a terribly expensive thing. And that's always nice.